Something touched my shoulder. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. My eyes were wide open, but I couldn't move a single muscle. For 3 terrifying minutes, I was trapped in my own body while something dark loomed over me. This wasn't a nightmare. This was sleep paralysis, and what I discovered about surviving it could save you from the same horror. Recent 2025 studies show that roughly 20% of people will experience this at least once in their lifetime, with rates climbing to 28% among students. But there are proven strategies backed by sleep science that can help you break free faster than you ever thought possible. To understand how to escape this terror, you first need to understand what's happening inside your brain when it occurs. The science behind your frozen body. Your brain creates a biological straitjacket every single night, and most of the time, you never know it exists. During REM sleep, your brain stem releases a flood of chemicals that shut down your voluntary muscle movements completely. This paralysis system evolved to keep you safe from acting out violent dreams, but when it malfunctions, you wake up trapped inside your own body. The pons, located at the base of your brain, controls this entire process. When you enter REM sleep, specialized neurons in the pons release neurotransmitters that block the signals that would normally travel from your brain to your muscles. Your diaphragm keeps working so you can breathe, and your eye muscles remain active, but everything else becomes completely immobilized. This shutdown is so complete that even if someone tried to physically move your arm during deep REM sleep, your muscles wouldn't respond. Sleep paralysis occurs when this chemical paralysis system doesn't turn off at the right time. Your brain cycles through different sleep stages throughout the night, transitioning from light sleep to deep sleep to REM sleep roughly every 90 minutes. During a normal awakening, the neurotransmitters that cause paralysis get reabsorbed, and your motor neurons start firing again. But sometimes, this reabsorption process gets delayed or interrupted. The neurotransmitter imbalance creates a terrifying biological contradiction. Your reticular activating system, which controls consciousness, becomes fully active. You can think clearly, process sensory information, and form memories. Meanwhile, your motor neurons remain flooded with paralysis-inducing chemicals, keeping your muscles locked in place. This creates 2 separate states of consciousness operating simultaneously in your brain. Brain imaging studies show that during sleep paralysis episodes, your prefrontal cortex lights up with activity while your motor cortex remains suppressed. The visual cortex also shows unusual patterns, which explains why hallucinations accompany most episodes. Your brain is essentially stuck between 2 different operating systems, creating a neurological traffic jam that can last anywhere from a few seconds to several minutes. Most sleep paralysis episodes last between 1 and 3 minutes, though they feel much longer to the person experiencing them. The duration depends on how quickly your brain can clear the excess neurotransmitters from your system. Factors like stress hormones, sleep deprivation, and certain medications can slow this process down, extending the episode. Your brainwave patterns during sleep paralysis show a unique signature that researchers can identify on EEG machines. Instead of the typical alpha waves associated with relaxed wakefulness, your brain produces a mixture of theta waves from REM sleep and beta waves from active consciousness. This creates an unstable neural state that your brain struggles to resolve. The reason some people experience sleep paralysis repeatedly, while others never do, comes down to individual differences in neurotransmitter processing. Some people have genetic variations that affect how quickly their brains clear the paralysis-inducing chemicals. Others have hyperactive REM sleep systems that produce more of these chemicals than normal. Sleep disorders like sleep apnea can also disrupt the normal sleep stage transitions, creating more opportunities for the paralysis system to malfunction. Irregular sleep schedules create the perfect conditions for sleep paralysis to occur. When you don't maintain consistent sleep and wake times, your brain's internal clock gets confused about when to activate and deactivate the paralysis system. Shift workers, students pulling all-nighters, and people with jet lag experience sleep paralysis at much higher rates because their circadian rhythms are constantly disrupted. Sleep stage transitions represent the most vulnerable moments for sleep paralysis to strike. Your brain has to coordinate dozens of different neural systems to move smoothly from one sleep stage to another. If you're sleep-deprived, stressed, or have consumed alcohol or caffeine, these transitions become sloppy. The paralysis system might activate too early or shut down too late, creating windows of opportunity for episodes to occur. Your brain's fear response system becomes hyperactive during sleep paralysis episodes. The amygdala, which processes fear and threat detection, receives confusing signals from your paralyzed body. It interprets the inability to move as a sign of extreme danger, flooding your system with stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. This fear response makes the paralysis feel even more intense and can trigger the hallucinations that accompany most episodes. Temperature regulation also affects sleep paralysis frequency. Your body temperature naturally drops during REM sleep, and the paralysis system is partially controlled by temperature-sensitive neurons. People who sleep in rooms that are too hot or too cold experience more frequent episodes because their temperature regulation systems interfere with normal sleep stage transitions. The timing of sleep paralysis episodes follows predictable patterns. Most episodes occur during the early morning hours, between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m., when REM sleep is most abundant. This is when your brain produces the highest levels of dream-inducing chemicals and when the paralysis system is most active. Episodes that occur when falling asleep, called hypnagogic paralysis, are less common but tend to be more frightening because they happen when your brain is less prepared for the experience. Age affects sleep paralysis frequency because of changes in neurotransmitter production and sleep architecture. Teenagers and young adults experience the highest rates because their brains are still developing and their sleep patterns are often irregular. After age 30, episodes become less common as sleep patterns stabilize and neurotransmitter systems mature. Understanding these neurological mechanisms transforms sleep paralysis from a supernatural mystery into a manageable medical condition. When you know that your brain is simply experiencing a temporary neurotransmitter imbalance, the experience becomes less terrifying. The paralysis isn't permanent, the hallucinations aren't real, and your body isn't in actual danger. This knowledge forms the foundation for every effective treatment and prevention strategy, because fear often makes episodes worse and more frequent. But knowing the science is only half the battle. The modern world has introduced entirely new factors that can trigger these episodes, and many of them are hiding in plain sight in your daily routine. Modern life's hidden sleep paralysis triggers. Your smartphone screen might be the reason you woke up paralyzed last night. Modern technology has created entirely new pathways to sleep paralysis that didn't exist just 20 years ago. The blue light streaming from your phone, laptop, and tablet screens tricks your brain into thinking it's still daytime, even when you're scrolling through social media at midnight. This artificial light suppresses melatonin production for hours after you finally put the device down, disrupting your natural sleep cycles and creating the perfect conditions for sleep paralysis to strike. The statistics reveal just how widespread this digital sleep disruption has become. A recent survey found more than 70% of those with sleep problems use screens before bed, with television and social media serving as the primary culprits. This constant exposure to blue light reduces the amount of time your brain spends in both slow wave and REM sleep, the two stages most crucial for preventing sleep paralysis. When your sleep architecture becomes fragmented, your brain struggles to coordinate the complex transitions between sleep stages, making those dangerous wake-sleep overlaps much more likely to occur. Average pre-sleep screen use ranges from 1 to 3 hours in surveys, creating extended periods of circadian disruption. Social media platforms have engineered their algorithms to keep you engaged long past your natural bedtime. This cognitive stimulation floods your brain with dopamine and stress hormones, right when these chemical levels should be dropping to their lowest point. Your mind becomes hyper-alert and anxious, making it nearly impossible to transition smoothly into sleep. When you finally do fall asleep, your brain often jerks back to consciousness while your body remains locked in REM paralysis. Work-from-home schedules have eliminated the natural boundaries that once separated work stress from sleep preparation. Without the physical transition of commuting home, many people find themselves answering emails and attending video calls right up until bedtime. The flexibility of remote work sounds appealing, but it often translates into irregular sleep schedules that wreak havoc on your circadian rhythm. A 2020 study found that 81.9% of shift workers reported sleep issues, compared to 73% of full-time workers and 72% of freelancers. When your sleep schedule varies by more than an hour from night to night, your brain loses its ability to predict when paralysis should activate and deactivate. The anxiety and stress levels that define modern life create a feedback loop that makes sleep paralysis more frequent and more intense. Chronic stress floods your system with cortisol, a hormone that interferes with normal sleep stage transitions. When you're stressed, Your brain remains hypervigilant even during sleep, making it more likely to wake up suddenly while your body is still paralyzed. Post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety disorders, and panic disorder all significantly increase sleep paralysis frequency. The episodes themselves become additional sources of anxiety, creating a vicious cycle where fear of sleep paralysis makes sleep paralysis more likely to occur. Modern sleep medications present a paradox that many people don't understand. While these drugs can help you fall asleep initially, they often interfere with natural REM sleep patterns in ways that increase sleep paralysis risk. Medications used for ADHD can raise the likelihood of episodes, and stopping alcohol or antidepressants can trigger REM rebound, a phenomenon where your brain tries to make up for lost REM sleep by producing unusually intense REM periods. During these rebound episodes, the paralysis system becomes hyperactive, making sleep paralysis much more likely to occur. Your sleep schedule has become a casualty of modern life's demands. Late-night work calls, streaming services that autoplay the next episode, and 24-hour news cycles all conspire to keep you awake past your natural bedtime. When you finally do sleep, you often sleep in on weekends to compensate, creating a pattern of social jet lag that confuses your internal clock. A 2025 study emphasized that maintaining a consistent sleep schedule acts like tuning your internal clock, reducing the chance of disruptive wake-sleep overlaps, much like ensuring all parts of an orchestra are synchronized for perfect harmony. Without this synchronization, your brain struggles to coordinate the complex neurochemical processes that prevent sleep paralysis. Caffeine consumption patterns in 2025 have evolved into an all-day affair that extends far beyond the traditional morning cup of coffee. Energy drinks, pre-workout supplements, and afternoon coffee runs keep caffeine levels elevated well into the evening hours. Caffeine blocks adenosine receptors in your brain, preventing the natural accumulation of sleep pressure that helps you fall asleep. Even if you stop consuming caffeine 6 hours before bedtime, traces remain in your system, interfering with deep sleep and making your REM periods more unstable. This instability creates more opportunities for your consciousness to return while your body remains paralyzed. The processed foods that dominate modern diets create inflammation and blood sugar spikes that interfere with sleep quality. High-sodium foods cause water retention that can worsen sleep apnea, while refined sugars create energy crashes that disrupt your natural circadian rhythm. Ultra-processed foods also contain additives and preservatives that can affect neurotransmitter production, potentially interfering with the delicate balance of chemicals that control sleep paralysis. When your diet lacks the nutrients needed for proper neurotransmitter synthesis, your brain struggles to maintain stable sleep patterns. Artificial lighting extends far beyond your personal devices. LED streetlights, 24-hour businesses, and light pollution from cities have fundamentally altered the light environment that humans evolved to sleep in. Your circadian rhythm depends on detecting the natural transition from daylight to darkness, but modern environments never truly become dark. This constant low-level light exposure suppresses melatonin production throughout the night, making your sleep lighter and more fragmented. Even small amounts of light leaking through curtains or from electronic devices can disrupt your sleep architecture enough to trigger sleep paralysis. The combination of these modern triggers creates a perfect storm for sleep paralysis. A person might work late on a laptop, check social media before bed, drink an energy drink in the afternoon, eat processed dinner while watching television, and then try to sleep in a room filled with electronic devices. Each of these factors individually increases sleep paralysis risk, but their combined effect is exponentially more dangerous. The lifestyle changes that pose the highest risk include irregular sleep schedules, high stress levels, excessive screen time before bed, and the elimination of natural light-dark cycles from daily routines. Understanding these modern triggers reveals why sleep paralysis rates have increased dramatically in recent decades. The digital age hasn't just changed how we communicate and work, it has fundamentally altered our relationship with sleep itself. But the physical paralysis is only half the terror. What happens in your mind during these episodes creates an experience so universally frightening that it has shaped folklore across every culture on Earth. The shadow people and hallucination mystery. There's someone in the room with you. You can't see them clearly, but you know they're there. This isn't your imagination playing tricks on you during a nightmare. This is sleep paralysis, and that menacing presence you feel is one of the most consistent and terrifying aspects of the condition. Nearly everyone who experiences sleep paralysis reports sensing an evil entity nearby, watching them, sometimes even touching them. The feeling is so universal that it transcends culture, age, and background. Whether you live in Tokyo or Texas, the experience remains remarkably similar. 90% of people who experience sleep paralysis report seeing dark figures or feeling watched during their episodes. These aren't random hallucinations that vary from person to person. Instead, they follow predictable patterns that researchers have documented across thousands of cases. The figures are almost always dark, shadowy, and perceived as malevolent. Some people describe them as human-shaped silhouettes, while others see more abstract forms of darkness that seem to move with purpose. The consistency of these reports across different populations points to a specific neurological process that creates these frightening visions. Your brain manufactures these terrifying hallucinations through a complex interaction of neural systems that normally don't operate together. During sleep paralysis, your visual cortex remains active and begins generating images, but without the normal input from your eyes. At the same time, your brain's threat detection system becomes hypervigilant, scanning for dangers that might explain why you can't move. This combination creates a perfect storm for frightening visual experiences. Your brain essentially fills in the blanks with the most threatening imagery it can produce, which is why the figures always appear menacing rather than neutral or friendly. The hallucinations feel more real than regular dreams because multiple sensory systems activate simultaneously during sleep paralysis. Your brain processes these experiences using the same neural pathways it uses for actual perception. Unlike dreams, which primarily involve visual imagery, sleep paralysis hallucinations engage your sense of sight, hearing, touch, and even smell. This multisensory activation makes the experience feel immediate and physical rather than dreamlike. Your brain treats these hallucinations as real sensory input, which is why you can remember them so vividly afterward. Researchers have identified 3 distinct types of hallucinations that occur during sleep paralysis episodes. Intruder hallucinations involve sensing a dangerous person or presence in the room, often manifesting as seeing a dark figure standing in the corner, hearing footsteps approaching your bed, or feeling someone touching you. Incubus hallucinations center on chest pressure and feelings of suffocation, accompanied by the sensation of something sitting on your chest or pressing down on your body. Vestibulomotor hallucinations create sensations of movement, such as feeling like you're floating, flying, or having an out-of-body experience where you can see yourself lying in bed. Brain imaging studies reveal why these experiences feel so universally terrifying. During sleep paralysis, your amygdala, the brain's alarm center, becomes extremely active, while areas responsible for logical thinking show reduced activity. This creates a state where your brain generates maximum fear responses without the normal mechanisms that would help you rationalize the experience. The threat detection centers stay on high alert during paralysis, amplifying hallucinations and making them feel incredibly real and immediate. Most people experience combinations of these hallucination types during a single episode. You might see a dark figure approaching while simultaneously feeling pressure on your chest and hearing strange breathing sounds. The brain's attempt to create a coherent narrative from these mixed sensory experiences often results in the perception of a single threatening entity that can be seen, heard, and felt. This integration of different hallucination types explains why the experiences feel so complete and convincing. Cultural background influences the specific content of sleep paralysis hallucinations in fascinating ways. In Western cultures, people often report seeing intruders, demons, or alien beings. Japanese individuals frequently describe encounters with spirits or supernatural entities from their folklore. Mexican culture interprets the experience through the lens of supernatural visitation, while some African cultures associate the hallucinations with witchcraft or ancestral spirits. Despite these cultural variations in interpretation, the underlying sensory experiences remain remarkably consistent across all populations. Fear doesn't just accompany sleep paralysis hallucinations, it actively makes them worse. When you become frightened during an episode, your brain releases stress hormones that intensify the hallucinations and make them last longer. The fear also triggers more activity in the brain regions responsible for threat detection, which generates even more frightening imagery. This creates a feedback loop where fear produces more intense hallucinations, which in turn produce more fear. Breaking this cycle requires understanding that the hallucinations, while terrifying, cannot actually harm you. Auditory hallucinations during sleep paralysis add another layer of terror to the experience. People report hearing footsteps, voices, breathing, scratching sounds, or even music. These sounds seem to come from specific locations in the room and often appear to move around. The auditory hallucinations frequently coordinate with visual ones, so you might hear footsteps approaching while simultaneously seeing a dark figure moving toward your bed. Your brain creates these sounds using the same mechanisms it uses for actual hearing, which is why they seem so real and immediate. The voices people hear during sleep paralysis episodes range from whispers to distinct conversations. Some individuals report hearing their name called, while others describe threatening voices or incomprehensible muttering. These auditory experiences often seem to come from the same source as the visual hallucinations, reinforcing the perception of a single threatening presence. The content of these voices sometimes reflects the person's deepest fears or anxieties, as the brain draws on emotional memories to create the most disturbing possible experience. The scientific reason these hallucinations are so consistently terrifying across cultures lies in human evolutionary history. Your brain's threat detection systems evolved to keep you alive in dangerous situations. When your brain detects that you're conscious but unable to move, it interprets this as a life-threatening situation and activates every available fear response. The hallucinations serve as your brain's attempt to identify and locate the perceived threat. Since the brain has no actual threat to focus on, it creates one that fits the situation, which is why the figures are always malevolent rather than neutral or benign. Understanding the neurological basis of these hallucinations removes much of their power to terrify you. When you know that your brain is creating these frightening images and sounds as a misguided protective response, the experience becomes less overwhelming. The shadow people aren't real entities. They're products of your brain's attempt to make sense of an unusual neurological state. But the visual and auditory hallucinations represent only part of the terror that defines sleep paralysis. The physical sensations
The crushing
that
weight
accompany
and
these
breathing
episodes
terror.
can feel
You're
even
suffocating.
more life-threatening. An invisible force presses down on your chest, making each breath feel like your last. Your lungs strain against an unseen weight, and panic floods your mind as you realize you might be dying. This crushing sensation strikes almost everyone who experiences sleep paralysis, creating one of the most terrifying aspects of the condition. The feeling of being unable to breathe properly transforms what should be a temporary inconvenience into a life-threatening emergency in your mind. The pressure on your chest during sleep paralysis has a specific physiological explanation that researchers have studied extensively. During normal REM sleep, your respiratory muscles experience significant reductions in activity, just like all your other voluntary muscles. Your diaphragm continues working to maintain basic breathing, but the accessory muscles that help you take deep breaths become temporarily paralyzed. When you wake up during sleep paralysis, your brain expects to regain full control of your breathing muscles, but the paralysis persists. This creates a disconnect between what your brain expects and what your body can actually do. Your respiratory system operates under completely different rules during REM sleep compared to wakefulness. During normal waking hours, you can consciously control your breathing rate and depth. You can hold your breath, breathe rapidly, or take deep breaths as needed. REM sleep removes this voluntary control and relies entirely on automatic breathing patterns controlled by the brainstem. These automatic patterns are often irregular and shallow compared to conscious breathing. When sleep paralysis occurs, you regain consciousness, but not the ability to override these automatic breathing patterns. The medical research reveals significant changes in how your body processes oxygen during REM sleep. Your accessory breathing muscles drop to about 40% of their normal activity levels during this sleep stage. These changes mean your breathing naturally becomes more shallow during REM sleep. When you wake up during sleep paralysis, your brain detects these altered breathing patterns and interprets them as signs of respiratory distress. Panic makes the breathing sensation exponentially worse during sleep paralysis episodes. When you first realize you can't move and your breathing feels restricted, your brain triggers a fight or flight response. This response floods your system with adrenaline and increases your heart rate, making your body demand more oxygen precisely when your breathing feels most restricted. The shallow REM breathing patterns, combined with panic hormones, make you feel starved for air. The increased oxygen demand combined with the perceived inability to breathe creates a feedback loop where panic intensifies the breathing difficulty, which in turn increases panic levels. Your sleep position plays a crucial role in determining how intense the chest pressure feels during sleep paralysis. People who sleep on their backs report the most severe sensations of chest pressure and breathing difficulty. This position allows gravity to press down on your chest and can cause your tongue to fall backward, partially blocking your airway. The combination of reduced muscle tone from REM sleep and gravitational effects creates the perfect conditions for feeling like something heavy is sitting on your chest. Side sleepers experience less intense pressure sensations because gravity doesn't work against their breathing mechanics as directly. The brain's interpretation of normal REM breathing patterns creates much of the terror associated with sleep paralysis. During regular REM sleep, your breathing naturally becomes irregular, with periods of shallow breathing followed by slightly deeper breaths. Your brain doesn't notice these irregularities because you're unconscious. However, during sleep paralysis, your conscious mind monitors these irregular breathing patterns and interprets them as signs of respiratory failure. What feels like suffocation is actually your brain's misinterpretation of normal REM sleep breathing. Many people describe feeling like they're being strangled or smothered during sleep paralysis episodes. This sensation occurs because your brain expects to regain full control of your throat muscles when you wake up, but the paralysis prevents this from happening. Your larynx and pharynx muscles remain in their REM sleep state, which can make swallowing difficult and create the sensation of throat constriction. The inability to swallow normally adds to the feeling of being choked, even though your airway remains open and functional.